In the endless black of space, the galaxy was alive with noise. Countless ships from powerful empires sent signals, flashed engines, and left trails of energy wherever they traveled. To most civilizations, this noise was normal. To them, space was a stage where power was shown through fire, light, and sound. But then something new appeared, something that made the galaxy grow silent. Observers at the edge of the Orion sector were the first to see it. They watched the stars as they always did, tracking the movements of patrol fleets from rival powers. But one night, their screens showed something strange. A group of massive objects appeared in the void without warning. No heat. No engine trails. No communication signals. Just silent black shapes moving against the stars. The observers thought at first their machines were broken. They checked again, then again, but the readings were real. Something was there, and it was moving with purpose. The ships did not match any known design. They had no glowing panels, no weapon pods, no symbols of empire. They seemed to be made of the night itself, so dark that light bent strangely around them. As they passed by, they left nothing behind. No debris. No distortion. No trace of their path. When the observers tried to follow, their scanners failed as if space itself refused to reveal the secret. Word spread quickly. Messages flashed from one system to the next, each carrying fear. What kind of ships could appear without being seen? Who could command vessels that ignored the laws of detection? At first, many thought it was a rumor. Some called it a trick made by one of the larger empires. But soon, sightings came from different corners of the galaxy. Always the same dark shapes gliding through the void, silent as death, untouchable by any sensor. The empires began to argue. The Zoric Dominion accused the Viori Alliance of testing new weapons. The Viori shouted back, claiming it was the work of the Kree swarm. But even as they accused one another, their leaders could not hide their fear. If these ships truly belonged to a rival, then the balance of the galaxy was broken. Whoever controlled these shadows could strike anywhere without warning. A council was called on the central station of the Kryn Confederacy. Leaders of 13 empires gathered, each demanding answers. Screens showed blurred images of the strange vessels, and voices rose in panic. No one could explain how these ships existed. Their movement seemed impossible. Their silence was unnatural. Then one of the smaller observers, a young officer from a border outpost, stood and gave his report. He had risked his life to scan closer than anyone before. His voice shook as he explained that the ships were made from something unknown. Their material did not reflect light the way normal metal did. More shocking was his final line. He claimed the vessels bent gravity itself, as if wrapped in the power of dark matter. The chamber fell silent. Dark matter was feared across the galaxy. Countless civilizations had studied it, but all failed to control it. Experiments ended in explosions, collapses, or worse. To use it for weapons or ships was thought to be impossible. Yet here was proof, someone had done it. The question burned in every mind: who? The answer came not from an empire, but from a forgotten world at the edge of a spiral arm. A world dismissed as primitive, noisy, and chaotic. A world most species had ignored for centuries. The whispers spread fast, until they became impossible to deny. These ships were not Zoric. They were not Viori. They were not Kree. They were human. The name struck fear deeper than any weapon. Humanity had been underestimated by every empire. They were seen as reckless explorers, too young to matter, too bold for their own survival. But somehow, in their small corner of the galaxy, they had achieved the unthinkable. They had built warships out of the very substance the rest of the galaxy feared to touch. The observers who first saw the ships would never forget the feeling. Watching them was like staring into the dark heart of space itself. They moved without sound, without light, yet with a power that shook the stars. In that moment, the galaxy realized something terrible and undeniable. Earth had risen. And with it had come the dark matter warships. For centuries, Earth had been ignored by the galaxy. When alien explorers first discovered humans, they saw a people still tied to their small planet, still divided into nations, still arguing among themselves. The great empires considered Earth a curiosity, not a rival. Traders visited sometimes, selling basic goods in exchange for minerals, but most left with laughter in their voices. To them, humans were noisy, reckless, and unimportant. But what the galaxy never understood was that humanity's greatest strength was hidden inside their weakness. While older civilizations had grown comfortable, relying on ancient traditions and stable power, humans were restless. They refused to stay still. They asked questions again and again, even when told the answers were impossible. Where other species feared to experiment, humans pressed forward, often failing but never giving up. This endless drive was what led humanity to dark matter. For most species, it was a forbidden subject. Too unstable, too unpredictable. Research stations had been lost in disasters when containment failed. Entire fleets had been destroyed by a single miscalculation. The empires learned to stay away, warning their children never to touch the invisible substance that lay hidden in the structure of the universe. Humans, however, were different. Their history was full of dangerous discoveries. Fire, electricity, atomic energy, fusion, each one had once been feared, yet they had mastered all of them. To human scientists, dark matter was simply another challenge. Where others saw only risk, they saw possibility. It began in secret labs hidden under the surface of the Moon and Mars. Scientists worked without the galaxy's knowledge, protected by governments that understood what was at stake. Failures were many. Containment fields collapsed, gravity wells crushed entire test chambers, and more than one colony outpost was lost to invisible implosions. But each failure gave new data. Each accident pushed them one step closer to success. After decades, the breakthrough came. A team of engineers created a stable containment sphere, a cage of energy that held dark matter safely inside. It was small at first, no larger than a grain of sand. But within that grain was power equal to a star. From that moment, Earth's destiny changed. The scientists realized dark matter was not only a source of energy but also a tool to bend gravity itself. Engines could be built to push ships without fuel, without light, and without detection. Weapons could be designed that crushed enemy hulls without firing a shot. Shields could be raised that bent incoming fire away. The possibilities were endless. Earth's leaders faced a choice. Reveal their discovery and risk being attacked before they were ready, or keep it hidden and build in silence. They chose the second path. For nearly a century, humanity pretended to be weak while in the shadows they forged a fleet. The first prototype warship was built in orbit above Saturn. Its hull was coated with special material that absorbed light. Its engines were invisible, powered by caged dark matter that twisted gravity around the ship. When it moved, no sensor could track it. When it stopped, it was as if it had never been there at all. The crew called it the Phantom. More followed. Shipyards hidden inside the asteroid belt produced vessel after vessel. Factories on Titan and Europa created new weapons that bent energy itself. On Earth, leaders swore secrecy. Even the public knew little of what was being built, for the project was hidden under names of civilian research. Generations of humans trained in silence. Pilots learned to control ships that did not follow normal physics. Engineers practiced repairing systems no other species understood. Commanders studied the maps of the galaxy, preparing for the day when Earth would need to step into the open. What made humanity most dangerous was not only the ships but the spirit behind them. While alien empires relied on tradition, humans adapted. They took old methods and reshaped them. They learned fast, changed faster, and never stopped pushing forward. With dark matter technology, they now held an advantage that even the oldest empires could not match. The galaxy still thought of Earth as young. But youth was no weakness. It was energy, it was hunger, it was a refusal to accept limits. Humanity had turned that hunger into the most advanced warships ever built. The whispers had already started spreading. Rumors of the silent vessels appearing in distant battles. Stories of fleets that vanished before anyone could react. Most leaders dismissed the tales as tricks, but deep inside they felt fear. Something was moving out there in the dark, and it was not like anything they knew. On Earth itself, the leaders of humanity gathered in a chamber hidden beneath the surface. They looked at the growing fleet on their screens. Hundreds of ships, each wrapped in shadow, each carrying the power of a collapsing star. For a long time, they had wondered whether they should reveal their strength. But the galaxy was growing unstable. Old empires were fighting again, and humans knew that sooner or later, they would be forced into the conflict. One voice broke the silence. The time is coming. We can no longer remain in hiding. When we step forward, they will see us not as children, but as equals or as something greater. Around the chamber, the others nodded. They knew the galaxy was not ready for what was about to come. The humans had built their power in secret, and soon the shadows would move. The dark matter warships of Earth were no longer just an experiment. They were a fleet. They were a promise. And they were waiting for the day to take the stage. The galaxy did not have to wait long to see the power of Earth's new fleet. The stage was set on the borders of two mighty empires, the Zoric Dominion and the Viuri Alliance. For years, these rivals had fought over a cluster of rich star systems, each side refusing to yield. Skirmishes turned into battles, and battles grew into wars that dragged countless lives into the fire. One such battle raged in the Kulros sector. Dozens of Zoric warships faced the Viuri fleet, their weapons filling the void with fire and light. Explosions flashed brighter than suns as missiles tore through shields. Lasers burned holes in hulls, while ships spun into fragments across the black. Both sides fought with fury, neither willing to retreat. To them, victory here would decide who controlled the sector for generations. Far from the battlefield, hidden in the folds of space, a different fleet waited. They had no bright engines, no flashing signals, no banners of empire. They were the dark matter warships of Earth, and this was the moment chosen for their first display. Inside the command ship, a human officer named Commander Ryan watched the battle unfold. His face was calm, though his crew felt the tension. Humanity had hidden for so long, but today they would reveal themselves to the galaxy. The risk was great, yet the reward was greater. They would not come as beggars, nor as victims, but as a power that could not be ignored. Ryan gave the order. Phase in. The warships moved. To the galaxy's eyes, it was as if shadows had suddenly taken shape out of nothing. Between the two warring fleets, an entire line of dark vessels appeared, their hulls bending starlight, their surfaces so black they seemed carved from the void. In an instant, the battle stopped. Both Zoric and Viuri ships froze, their captains stunned at the sight before them. Weapons from both sides locked onto the newcomers, but none dared fire. The ships looked alien to all known records. No one could identify their origin. Fear ran through every crew as silence filled the channel. Then, one of the Zoric commanders, his voice sharp with arrogance, broke the silence. Identify yourselves. This is a war zone. Withdraw, or be destroyed. The human fleet did not answer at once. Instead, one of the dark warships projected a signal into open space. It was not a threat, not a demand, but a calm voice speaking in simple words. This battle ends now. Leave, or be forced to leave. The voice belonged to Commander Ryan. His tone was steady, neither loud nor cruel, but filled with weight. To the ears of the Zoric and Viuri captains, it was more terrifying than a shouted command. The Zoric ignored the warning and fired first. A swarm of missiles shot toward the nearest dark matter warship. The Viori joined in, hoping to destroy the mysterious intruders together. For a moment, the void filled with deadly fire aimed at the humans. But none of the weapons struck. As the missiles approached, they curved away, their paths bending as if space itself rejected them. Energy blasts spread into nothing, unable to touch the black hulls. To the attackers, it looked as if the universe itself protected the newcomers. Then the humans answered not with destruction, but with a demonstration. Gravity waves pulsed out from the human ships, invisible yet unstoppable. Enemy vessels shook as space twisted around them. Shields collapsed, weapons systems failed, and entire cruisers were forced to shut down, drifting helplessly in the void. Not a single shot had been fired, yet two powerful fleets were brought to their knees. Panic spread through the ranks. Crews shouted in confusion, trying to understand what was happening. Generals argued with one another, but no answer came. In minutes, their strength had turned into weakness. On the human command ship, Commander Ryan gave one final message. This is the strength of Earth. We seek no conquest, but we will not allow endless war. The age of ignoring humanity is over. From this day forward, we take our place among you. With that, the warships vanished. One by one, they slipped back into the folds of space, leaving nothing but silence behind. The Zorik and Viori fleets drifted, their weapons useless, their pride broken. They looked at each other not as rivals but as survivors of something greater. Both sides knew that the galaxy had just changed. The mysterious humans had stepped onto the stage, not with promises or negotiations, but with a single act that none could forget. In the days that followed, reports of the event spread like wildfire. Traders carried the tale to distant systems. Soldiers whispered it in mess halls. Civilians repeated it with awe. Ships of shadow, they called them. Warriors of silence. Everywhere the story traveled, it left behind a single feeling: fear. The galaxy, once proud and secure, now trembled. For the first time, the great empires realized there was a new power among them. A power that had been hidden in plain sight. A power that could not be stopped by their weapons or their pride. The name of that power was Earth. The Kilrose sector battle changed everything. What should have been another clash between two ancient rivals became the day the galaxy froze in silence. Both the Zorik Dominion and the Viori Alliance left the battlefield without victory, without explanation, and with a fear none of their people had ever felt before. The Shadow Fleet had appeared, stopped them without firing, and vanished as if swallowed by the stars. News traveled faster than light through whispers, stories, and reports. By the time the fleets returned to their homelands, the tale of Earth's dark matter warships had already reached a dozen other empires. In marketplaces, pilots repeated the story with wide eyes. On distant colonies, civilians gathered around to hear what had happened. Every telling made the warships sound even more terrifying: ships that no weapon could touch, vessels that turned battles into silence with a single command. The great halls of power shook with panic. In the Zorik Dominion, the War Council sat inside a chamber carved from black stone. Generals who once spoke with roaring voices now argued with unease. It must be Viori technology, one growled. They tricked us with new weapons. But another shouted back, do not be blind. The Viori were as helpless as we were. These ships belong to no one we know. The debate ended in silence when their leader, the High Lord, spoke the words none wanted to admit. Then who else could it be? Far across the galaxy, in the shining towers of the Viori Alliance, the same fear took root. Their counselors reviewed the recordings of the battle over and over, yet nothing gave answers. Their finest scientists said the bending of weapons could only be caused by dark matter manipulation. But dark matter was impossible, or at least, it had been until now. One counselor leaned forward, whispering the thought already haunting them all: if humans have truly done this, then everything we know has changed. The Kree swarm, a species of countless hive fleets, received the news with rage. Their queen screeched in fury, demanding her children prepare for war. But even the swarm, endless and proud, hesitated. They had fought every empire before, but never against ships that could vanish and reappear at will. For the first time in generations, the swarm paused, uncertain if they could win. The Kryn Confederacy, who had once called the council to discuss the mystery, now found themselves overwhelmed with demands. Leaders from every corner of the galaxy sent envoys, demanding explanations, demanding proof. But there was no proof, only fear. In every council chamber, in every palace, in every war hall, the same question echoed: if these shadow ships belonged to Earth, what else were the humans hiding? Until now, humans had been dismissed as a young race. They were explorers, bold but weak, still tied to their home world and its small colonies. The great empires had thought of them as background noise, more curious than dangerous. But now, the memory of the silent warships forced everyone to reconsider. How had such a young species mastered what the elders could not? How had they built fleets that ignored the very laws of physics? Fear turned to suspicion. The empires began to shift their alliances. Some sought to join with one another, hoping to create a defense against the human threat. Others quietly reached out to humans, hoping to win their favor before it was too late. Armies were moved, borders strengthened, spies sent. The galaxy's balance, which had lasted for centuries, was breaking apart. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens across the stars whispered about the humans. Some spoke with dread, saying Earth's people would rise as conquerors, ruling with ships of shadow. Others spoke with awe, almost with admiration. After all, humanity had been ignored for so long. To rise from nothing to such power was a story that inspired even those outside Earth. But in the highest places of power, fear was the strongest. On a distant moon in Zorik space, an admiral stood before his staff. He stared at the star map where Earth's position was marked as a tiny blue dot near the edge of a spiral arm. He clenched his fists. We allowed this to grow in silence. We mocked them. We dismissed them. And now they stand above us all. Similar words were spoken in other halls, by other rulers, each realizing the same truth. They had underestimated humanity, and in doing so, they had allowed something unstoppable to rise. The galaxy had seen wars, it had seen rebellions, it had seen empires rise and fall. But never had it faced a power that came not from age or numbers, but from daring. Humanity's daring had given birth to warships that made the strongest tremble. For the first time in thousands of years, the rulers of the galaxy felt powerless. They could build larger fleets, they could raise more soldiers, but none of it mattered if their weapons bent away like dust in the wind. The halls of power, once filled with arrogance and pride, now echoed with quiet fear. The name of Earth was spoken not as a joke, not as a curiosity, but as a shadow that loomed over them all. And though they tried to plan, though they tried to scheme, every leader knew the truth deep inside. The humans had stepped onto the stage, and no force in the galaxy was ready to stop them. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Every empire had paused, every council had faltered, and every leader had begun to doubt their own power. Now, in the Grand Hall of the Central Galactic Council, a human ambassador was about to speak. Her name was Myra. She stood tall on the platform, dressed in simple uniform that carried no insignia of rank or weapon. Around her, hundreds of alien delegates watched with curiosity, suspicion, and fear. Some of them had fought humans before, or so they thought. Now, they realized how little they had understood. Myra's eyes scanned the room. She saw reptilian eyes glinting in suspicion, insectoid antennae twitching with uncertainty, and ethereal forms floating above their seats, whispering warnings to one another. Yet Myra remained calm. Humanity had learned to stand in the silence of doubt. They had learned to be heard without shouting, and this moment would show why. She raised her voice. It was not loud, but it carried clearly across the chamber. Leaders of the galaxy, we come not as conquerors, nor as invaders. We come as a species that has long been underestimated. Earth has grown, not by taking from others, but by learning, by experimenting, and by building what many said could not exist. A murmur ran through the council. Some delegates exchanged worried glances. Others leaned forward, curious despite themselves. Myra continued, her tone steady, each word chosen carefully. For centuries, your empires looked at us as a young species, full of ambition but weak. We accepted your judgment. We did not challenge it. But we also did not stop growing. We explored the universe, we studied its laws, and we mastered what was once thought impossible. The dark matter warships you have seen are only one example of what humanity can achieve when given the chance. The room grew quieter. Even the most arrogant delegates found themselves listening, unable to ignore the calm authority in her words. Myra paused for a moment, letting the weight of her statement sink in. Make no mistake. We do not wish for endless war. We do not wish to conquer your empires. Humanity seeks respect, and we will earn it. We offer knowledge, trade, and alliances. We offer partnership, not submission. But we will also defend ourselves, and anyone who challenges the strength of Earth will find themselves unprepared. There was a tension in the air that could be felt like gravity. No one spoke. No one dared interrupt. The galaxy had grown used to threats shouted across space, to armies that boasted but never acted. This was different. Humans had not threatened. They had shown, and now they spoke. A delegate from the Viuri Alliance finally stood. His voice was sharp, but he spoke carefully. Ambassador Myra, you claim your fleet is unmatched. Can you guarantee that your intentions are peaceful? Myra nodded. We can. Our fleet exists to protect our people and to maintain balance. We do not seek to dominate, only to ensure that our existence is respected. But know this: the era of underestimating humanity is over. Our strength is no longer hidden, and we will not allow it to be questioned. Some delegates leaned back, processing her words. Others whispered to neighbors. The room was filled with unease, but also with admiration. Humans were young, yet they spoke with a confidence that centuries of power had not produced in the older empires. Then Myra added quietly, but clearly, we have learned from the galaxy, and we have grown. We do not fear your fleets, nor your councils, nor your power. But we ask you to recognize that underestimating humanity will be a mistake you may never recover from. Silence returned. For a long moment, the galaxy held its breath. Finally, a delegate from the Kryn Confederacy spoke. Ambassador, your words are clear. Let it be known that the Council will consider humanity a serious power from this day forward. Myra inclined her head. It was not a bow of submission, but a gesture of acknowledgement. She had not demanded respect. She had earned it. Outside the council chambers, fleets moved in silence. The galaxy's eyes were now on Earth, on its people, and on the warships that had shifted the balance of power. News of Myra's address spread quickly, carried by messengers and communications networks. In every system, the name of Earth now commanded attention. No one spoke of humans as weak anymore. No empire dared dismiss them as insignificant. Humanity had done more than display technology; they had demonstrated wisdom, courage, and restraint. The galaxy understood, perhaps for the first time, that power was not only measured in weapons, but in knowledge and confidence. And on Earth, Myra returned to her command, knowing that the next steps would require strategy and care. The galaxy was aware of them now, and every action would be watched closely. But humanity had shown that it could rise from the shadows and speak its truth. The first voice of Earth had spoken, and it carried a message that would echo across the stars: humans were no longer a species to be ignored. Even as Myra's words spread across the galaxy, not all leaders accepted humanity's rise with calm respect. Some believed that the humans were bluffing, that their fleets could be destroyed with enough firepower, and that their sudden appearance was only a momentary trick. Among them was a warlord from the Outer Rim named Talvek, a veteran of countless battles who had grown arrogant with victories. Talvek had built a fleet feared in many systems, and he believed nothing could stop him. When he heard reports of human colonies in the remote edge of the galaxy, he saw an opportunity. If he destroyed one colony, he could send a message that humans were still weak, and that the empires who feared them had been foolish. His fleet of hundreds of ships moved quietly through the void, cloaked by gravitational distortions to avoid detection. Talvek's confidence was absolute. They will see us coming, he told his commanders, and they will fail. But humanity had anticipated challenges like this. On one of the outer colonies, a signal reached the human command fleet hours before Talvek arrived. Commander Ryan reviewed the incoming data. The fleet had trained for this day. Every dark matter warship was ready. Pilots ran final checks, engineers confirmed containment fields, and the crew waited silently, knowing that this was the moment their fleet had been built for. When Talvek's ships emerged near the colony, they expected easy victory. The colony's defenses were minimal, designed only to handle small raids. The warlord smiled as he gave the order to attack. Missiles and laser fire began to move toward the colony without hesitation. Talvek's fleet was confident, and no one doubted their skill. Then the dark matter warships arrived. They appeared as shadows, slipping through the darkness as if part of it. Talvek's sensors tried to lock on, but failed. Weapons fired at the black hulls were bent away by gravity fields, and missiles were redirected harmlessly into space. Talvek could not believe his eyes. His fleet, built to overwhelm any opponent, could not touch the humans at all. Commander Ryan gave the order. Engage containment sequence. Gravity pulses spread out from the dark matter warships, invisible to the enemy but powerful enough to shake entire fleets. Talvek's ships were lifted from their paths, rotated, and crushed by forces they could not resist. Engines sputtered and failed, weapons systems shut down, and entire cruisers drifted helplessly in space. Not a single human weapon had fired, and yet the Outer Rim fleet was in ruins. Talvek's pride turned to panic. He tried to retreat, to regroup, to find any weakness. But every move was anticipated. The humans had studied the galaxy's fleets, understood their patterns, and knew exactly how to counter them. Within minutes, Talvek's mighty armada was reduced to drifting hulks, some broken, some completely immobilized. The surviving crews of Talvek's fleet sent desperate messages, begging for mercy, wondering if they had faced some god or spirit instead of humans. Every transmission carried the same message: they cannot be stopped. They are not like anything we know. In the aftermath, Commander Ryan addressed his fleet. We did not attack to destroy unnecessarily. We showed them our power so that no further harm comes to this colony or others. Remember, we defend, but we do not conquer without cause. The victory was not just physical. It was a statement. The galaxy had seen that humanity was capable of protecting its people with precision, intelligence, and overwhelming power. The message was clear: any who underestimated humans would pay the cost. Back in the halls of the empires, the story of Talvek's defeat spread rapidly. Across the stars, leaders and citizens alike whispered in awe. Humans had taken a fleet built to dominate and turned it into dust without traditional weapons. No empire could dismiss them anymore, and no warlord could think he could challenge them lightly. Even the Kryn Confederacy, which had been cautious in previous councils, now acknowledged the truth. Humans were not just capable, they were formidable. Their technology, their strategy, and their resolve had proven superior to almost every known force in the galaxy. On Earth, the command fleet returned to orbit, and the colony was safe once more. Ryan looked at the stars, knowing that this was only the beginning. Humanity's presence was now undeniable, and the galaxy could no longer ignore them. Their fleets were not just tools of war, they were symbols of a species that refused to be underestimated. The dark matter warships had passed their first true test. Humanity had proven that it could defend itself, and that its power was unmatched. Across the galaxy, fear was now paired with a new emotion, respect. From this day forward, the balance of power had shifted. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would not soon forget. Humanity had arrived not with threats, but with undeniable strength. And in every system, leaders wondered quietly if they would be next to see the power of Earth firsthand. The galaxy had changed forever. The events of Kulro's sector, Myra's speech, and the defeat of Talvek's fleet had sent ripples of fear and respect through every empire. No longer could any civilization dismiss humanity as weak or insignificant. The name of Earth was now spoken with caution, awe, and in some cases, dread. In the council chambers of the Zoric Dominion, the generals met in secret. Their fleets were still intact, but their pride had been shattered. Maps of human colonies and fleets were studied endlessly, and strategies were rewritten, not to conquer humans, but to avoid them. "We must not provoke them," one general said quietly. "They are faster, stronger, and smarter than we imagined." The words hung in the room like a shadow. Meanwhile, the Viori alliance scrambled to repair damaged ships from the Kulros encounter. Their leaders sent messages of peace, some offering alliances, others asking for trade. Every communication carried fear, tempered with respect. Even they realized that a misstep against humans could mean annihilation. The Kryn Confederacy took a different approach. Instead of fear, they responded with caution and diplomacy. Delegates traveled to Earth, not with fleets of war, but with offers of negotiation. The humans, in turn, welcomed them politely, showing courtesy and firmness. The Confederacy realized that Earth had not only power but restraint. They could destroy entire fleets, yet they chose to speak first, and strike only when necessary. On Earth, the people watched the unfolding events with quiet confidence. The dark matter warships remained hidden in orbit and deep space, ready to respond if threatened, yet patient. Humanity's leaders knew that fear alone was not enough to secure their place. Respect required wisdom, courage, and a demonstration of control. In distant star systems, traders and civilians shared tales of the humans. Pilots described the black warships that appeared and vanished, spinning the strongest fleets into helplessness. Merchants spoke of Ambassador Myra, whose calm words carried the weight of entire fleets. Across hundreds of systems, stories spread, creating a new understanding: humanity was no longer a species to be underestimated. Even among the warlords and ambitious rulers, the lesson was clear. Earth had proven its strength not through conquest alone, but through strategy, precision, and intelligence. Their fleets were unmatched, their tactics flawless, and their resolve absolute. Every leader now knew that to challenge humanity recklessly was to risk complete defeat. Yet fear was tempered by curiosity. Some leaders began to see humans not just as a threat, but as a potential ally. Their technology was advanced, their strategy unmatched, and their willingness to speak and negotiate showed an intelligence rare among galactic powers. A new idea began to grow: perhaps humanity could help stabilize the galaxy instead of being a source of destruction. Commander Ryan stood aboard the command ship in orbit around Earth, watching reports of fleet movements across the galaxy. Every signal, every message, told him the same story: the galaxy was watching. They were uncertain, cautious, and wary, but their attention was now focused entirely on humanity. Ryan thought of the journey that had brought them here. From the hidden laboratories on the Moon and Mars to the construction of dark matter warships in secret, humanity had worked tirelessly, quietly, and with focus. They had not sought glory, nor had they wished to dominate. But when the galaxy challenged them, they answered with unmatched power and restraint. Ambassador Myra, observing from the council chamber, smiled slightly. Humanity had spoken, had shown, and had protected its own. And now, the galaxy was learning a difficult truth: humans were not to be ignored, underestimated, or dismissed. They had arrived, not with arrogance, but with clarity, confidence, and the strength to back their words. In the following weeks, a new era began. Old empires reconsidered alliances, weakened factions sought guidance, and human fleets continued to patrol quietly, ready to act only when necessary. Fear lingered, but it was now accompanied by respect. The galaxy had witnessed what humans could do, and every civilization knew that Earth's influence was permanent. From the edge of the spiral arms to the heart of the oldest empires, whispers of Earth's power spread. Ships of shadow, fleets that bent the laws of physics, and humans who spoke with calm authority became the new measure of strength. Humanity's reputation was no longer built on age, numbers, or wealth, but on ingenuity, courage, and wisdom. And so, the galaxy held its breath. It waited, not knowing what humanity would do next, yet confident that the species that had risen from an unremarkable planet was now a power to be reckoned with. The dark matter warships were more than weapons, they were symbols of a species that had refused to be underestimated. For the first time, every civilization realized that the stage had been taken. Humanity was no longer a background actor. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.